Welcome back, people. Welcome back. It's been a very interesting week. Very interesting week. I mean, Olympics is, I think, going into it, because I didn't really mention it too much on here, because I didn't really know what was going to happen. I thought it would be more underwhelming than it's actually turned out to be. I thought there'd be no crowds, there'd be no atmosphere, everyone would be sort of swimming in empty stadiums, thrown in empty, just arenas, and it'd be a bit weird. But I think the reason why I love the Olympics so much and sport of that kind is because it's just so pure. It's like the stopwatch or the tape measure, and that's pretty much it. Obviously, you got gymnastics and other things which are more arts-based, which I'm not that into, but in terms of the swimming and various events like that, I just love how it's everyone go out there on a bike or everyone go out there in the pool, swim that many lengths, and whoever touches the wall first is the Olympic champion. And the idea of the Olympic, every time I see Olympic goals being handed out, like it really does appear, because I'm so used to seeing, let's say, Formula One or football or even basketball and other sports where it's so money, sponsor, and external factors kind of play too much of it, especially money and that kind of thing. Like there's too much money involved. The richest teams or the richest individuals will end up winning. But I think with the Olympics, it's so basic. It's, listen, you guys jump in a pool and there's no, whoever's got a Nike sponsorship isn't necessarily going to win, because you've still got to run up and back, or you've still got to swim up and back, you've still got to jump off of this, and there's a lot of things that I just find really, it's just so basic. I keep talking about the basic. It's just so simple. It's, who can do this better than the other person? There's no money involved. There's no rich teams. There's no Dubai investors. There's no, more money than the other teams. I really have enjoyed watching all of this. So in terms of the Olympics, there's a lot going on, obviously, and too much for me to even break down in any sort of a video that would kind of make sense, because I didn't want to do was just a reporting on what's happened. As, oh yeah, by the way, they won that medal. It's kind of what I've wanted to do is just watch it, because I've been watching every single day, all the coverage on BBC. So I've got an idea who's doing what, and then over the course of watching all of these sports, you just kind of gravitate towards. It's the same as all you guys are watching as well. You just end up just sticking on the skateboarding and just being engrossed in this new American guy who's like the superstar, and then there's the Japanese guy who's sort of the world champion before, who's beat the American guy. It's a lot of interesting stuff. Well, I guess not jumping in, but that was the first thing I watched, the skateboarding. And first of all, it was the first time they've ever had skateboarding at the Olympics, and I wasn't too sure about just the idea of skateboarding going to the Olympics. There's a lot of sports where the casuals, to be honest, a lot of the casuals are kind of like, why is X sport or why is X sport in the Olympic Games? But when you get there, because I watched the whole thing, and you realise skateboarding is essentially gymnastics on a board, because it's gymnastics on a board, it's like diving on a board, anything that has any kind of artistic expression that judges have to score, it all counts. It's all the same thing. So skateboarding is as much an Olympic sport as diving is, as dressage, as all these different things that are graded on gymnastics as performance-based. So judges give you like a 10 or a 9 or an 8. So I did find the skateboarding interesting, mainly because of the characters. You see all these guys, just random people I've never seen before, because I do not watch skateboarding. I didn't know he's even a worldwide thing. In terms of, it isn't a worldwide thing, obviously. It wasn't in the Olympic Games before. They do have like some sort of a Champions League equivalent of skateboarding, which I was told was quite interesting. And they've got this a superstar called Nigel Houston, this American guy. So he's like the Usain Bolt of skateboarding, they told us. And there's a Japanese guy who is his main rival, who's only just beaten him recently. So this guy the American guy, Houston, was unbeaten for however many years, 6 or 7 years, or he'd won most of the gold medals in the World Championships. And then this Japanese guy beat him last year. So they're building that whole thing up, and you're getting used to seeing them all do these tricks, and it's an interesting format. So yeah, the Japanese guy ended up winning, and the American Nigel Houston, he ended up coming 6th, which is quite interesting. But that was like the intro to the Olympics for me. I sort of watched that whole thing, and I thought, okay, this is quite interesting. And at the end of the day, when you're announced as the Olympic champion, that's still, there is no higher thing. You can win the NBA title, you can win this, you win that. But if you are the Olympic champion in your event, that's it. And because it happens only every 4 years, it's all the best and the big pressure. As we've seen with Simone Biles, clearly it's not just a case of, all right, who's the best in the world? Okay, give the gold medal to him or her. It's who's the best in the world on the 27th of July in this arena with everyone watching you. And they're two different things. Being the best in the world and being able to perform there and then are two different things. So that's why appreciating greatness, people who do any kind of Olympic or any kind of title, often, clearly, you're proving that not only can you show up on the day, you can show up on the day on multiple years. So I've always found that very interesting. So I've narrowed it down. Obviously, there's a few interesting bits kind of leading on from the chat that people have mentioned. In the women's tennis, it's a free-for-all now. So all the top people are out. They all went out early. Ash Barty, the number one, the Wimbledon champion, she went out in the first round. A lot of the people were just dropping like flies, as it often happens in the women's game. The men's side, Djokovic is still in there. All the top guys are in there. And that's going on today and tomorrow, I think. And then I think maybe towards the weekend. I can't remember how far it goes. But they're playing games every day, so it's very rapid. And they haven't shown too much of that on BBC. So they've kind of just shown the highlights of people going out. So there's not been a whole lot of that. Following on from the Tour de France, the men's road race was won by Carapaz, who was the rival to Pogačar. So they had their kind of little battle. Pogačar ended up winning that. So Carapaz won the Olympic gold, and then Pogačar ended up coming third in that particular race, which was kind of very, very early. They're doing the time trial today, which Pogačar isn't in. So that's another kind of the two main parts. They do the road race, which is more of a typical not mountain stage, but more of an actual ride where everyone's together. And they do the time trial, which is for the sprinters, kind of, depends on how good you are. But it's a time trial based on a long, you go by yourself across this through the track, and whoever does the fastest time wins. So I do like how they've got, the overall thing, everyone rides together, tries, the teammates thing, and then you go and do by yourself, a little time trial, which is very interesting. Golf was, so golf initially was looking quite good. So obviously some people were dropping out, some people decided not to go. So Bryson DeChambeau tested positive. He's out of the Olympics before he even got there. John Rahm, as I'm sure if you've seen my videos from before, the guy who was winning that tournament only a month ago, 5 weeks ago, he's winning the tournament by 6 shots, playing the best golf in the world. He gets withdrawn from the tournament because he tested positive. He goes through isolation. He gets to the US Open almost on the day or the day before, wins that, so he's won the major, and now he's tested positive again, and now he's at the Olympics. So, sport aside, it's kind of more concerning that he could get it twice in like 5 weeks. But so one of the favourites is out. He's still got Colin Morikawa. He's in there. It's going to be an interesting tournament because a lot of the best guys are in there, and it's sort of been limited because obviously the Americans have maybe 12 guys that could win, but there's only like 4. I think there's only four people that can go. So it does open up a little bit more. More people have a chance if you limit the Americans to only 4 people. So I mentioned skateboarding, I mentioned tennis. They're all things I kind of like kept up on. Another like segue, like a brief before I get onto swimming, a brief thing that I saw. The Korean women in the team archery, have won every single Olympic gold. There's been nine Olympics. I think the first one was in like 1960 something. Every single Olympic Games where they've held archery, the Korean women have won. So there's literally gold, 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 gold. I mean, I've seen dominance. I don't think I've ever seen a stat. There probably are some. There's probably, I'm sure the Americans have won something every single time. But I actually probably look that up, to be fair. But I just found that amazing how nobody's ever beaten Korea in the archery at the Olympic Games. All nine in a row, and they're all just getting 10s every single time. As you see some of the other matches, men and women are getting. I mean, some of the men, the gold medal guys are getting 10s all the time, but you see 8s and 9s and 8s. But these are like 10, 10, 10, 9, 10, 10. They just absolutely smashed it. So that was. archery is fun because everyone can understand the idea of it. I think that's what I don't know what everyone, I don't know what the casuals or fans of sport in general, how they see sports. Even me, where I'm, see a lot of different sports. If I can't understand why the sport's being done, or if I see sort of a weakness, I'll just switch off from it. I can't get behind a kind of a sport. There's some sports I'm just like, why? Like mountain biking, like why are we cycling through these crazy drops and sheer cliffs and rock faces and just crazy sit-ups? Like, why are we doing this? Why don't we just cycle in a straight line and see who the fastest is? So that's the kind of, it's super silly, but it's just something I always look at. Like, sports that people can understand how it's done, like archery or long jump or 100 meters, it all makes sense. But some sports, I've just thrown mountain biking under the bus a little bit, but there's a lot of sports where I'm like, why do we need to do that? What's the point? But we move. So swimming is, well, so far it normally is in the Olympics. Normally I'll watch a bit of taekwondo, I'll watch a bit of fencing or whatever it might be, just because it's on. But swimming, I'll watch every single event because mainly because there's so many. I worked out up until, well, not middle distance, but 400 meters is quite a long way for swimming. So apart from the long distances, which is 8 and 15, where people just do the freestyle, I don't think I've ever heard of an 800 meter backstroke, because that'd be silly. So 800 meters and 1500 meters are just long distance. They're kind of as they are in athletics. But from 50 meters, which is just one length, up to 400 meters, you can do all the 4 strokes. So there's 18, and including the medley, which I'll get into in a minute, there's 18 different events. If you're a male or female swimmer, there's 18 different events you can do. If you just, because obviously there's no throwing. So the difference between athletics is obviously athletics you can throw, run, jump, do all of it, or hurdle. But in swimming you can only swim, obviously. So there's 18 different events you can do. So there's a lot of different. You see a lot of kind of overlap. You see the 100 meter guy going in the 50 and the 200, and they all kind of do blend into each other. So it's hard to sort of pick one out. But I've managed, obviously, as we know, I've picked a few that I've found interesting in one way or the other, and some of them are only the reason why this is a little bit delayed is because I saw this guy, I was like, where's the world record there? But yeah, so Krzysztof Milak is 20-year-old. Now, bit of context, obviously Michael Phelps, as we all know, was the 100 meter and 200 meter, well, he did all the events, he did the butterfly, the freestyle, and the medley, which is a length of each stroke. So he's basically all-round great swimmer, but his thing, like his main thing, was butterfly, 100 meters and 200 meters. He dominated those events. He won most of the gold medals and had the world record in both. And he had the world record in an era which some may not know. So in 2008, 2009, they brought out these like suits, so body suits, and they were making guys and girls go super quick. And they realized that these suits were making people go to swim too fast. So then they banned them after around 2009. So a lot of the world records, the ones that just can't be beaten, are from that era. So Phelps had those two. That's not, well, it is obviously why he got there, but he's obviously the greatest of all time anyway. So he didn't get the world records because he had the suits, but he had the suits in the era that the world records were set. Both of those 2 world records have been broken by 2 guys I'm going to talk about. So Milak has broken his 200 meter world record, 200 meter butterfly world record, which was something that no one ever thought could be done, and he's demolished the world record. So he's winning races. He won the final. He won the Olympic gold yesterday, I think it was, by about 3 seconds. In the pool, that's just a stupid amount. That's almost that's a quarter of the pool. So he touched the thing, and the other guys were just getting on through. So Milak is clearly one to watch going forward. He seems to only be doing the butterfly that I've seen, but he's one of those guys that could branch out, like the other guy I'm about to talk about, Caleb Dressel, who is sort of the guy. He's sort of the next Michael Phelps, but I guess we'll see which ones he wants to do, because he's another one who wins gold medals at all different events, freestyle, butterfly, and he's kind of doubling up and doing all that kind of thing. So Caleb Dressel, Krzysztof Milak, and now there's a battle between Ariana Titmus and Katie Ledecky. So Katie Ledecky was is the greatest female swimmer of all time, certainly middle to long distance. She's got the world record in the 400 metres, 800 metres and 1500 metres. And Titmus beat her in the 400 and the 200 already at this one. But the 800 is her sort of Ledecky's event. And the 1500, which they never allowed women to swim. I don't know if they just didn't allow or there weren't that many that swam that event. But either way, there was never a 1500 metre event for women. They always had it for men, but they never had it for women. So Ledecky smashed that one earlier. She's got the gold medal for that. So the big battle is going to be at 800 metres. And they're all sort of popping up. All these names I'm mentioning are all people who are doing multiple events and having rivalries at events. Not many people are dominating, unless your name's Adam Peaty. He literally, there isn't, from what I've seen, there isn't another, apart from Ledecky at the 800 metres maybe, there isn't another swimmer with such a dominance in his particular sport, his particular length or stroke. So he's the only guy to go under 57 seconds. He's only one of two who've gone under 58 seconds for that event. So he's got the 15 fastest times of all time. He's got the world record. He's got he's not been beaten in 7 years in his event. 7 years. He's jumped in the pool, European, Commonwealth, World Championship, whatever you want. Backyard games. He's won every single event he's in the last 7 years. And he cannot be beaten in that particular event. It's basically Usain Bolt if he just never let his foot off the gas. If Usain Bolt tried really hard for between 2008 and 2014, if he really, really went for it because Usain Bolt kind of took it off for a bit. He came for the big events and just generally throughout the season he just did what he wanted. But Adam Peach wins every single race. And it just so happens that he's British. So he's by far... certainly one of the greatest British swimmers of all time. It is, again, this is far be it from me to not criticise or to have an asterisk, but it is only the 100 breaststroke. So he doesn't do a lot of athletes. Most of the great ones, Phelps and whoever else, they swim multiple distances, multiple strokes. He is just, if it could be just, 100 butterfly, 100 breaststrokes. There's 2 lengths of the pool, and he owns that event like I've not seen anyone else own any other event, to be honest with you. So he's been very impressive. I think we're getting towards the business end. Most of the finals have been done. It's been very kind of open. Like there's not been any. A lot of the pre-race favourites have come in and kind of done bits and bobs. Lily King in the 100 metre breaststroke. She was the undefeated, all-conquering. She got beaten. Ledecky got beaten by Titmus as well. So they're all kind of, and Caleb Dressel hasn't swum many events yet, so he's jumping in I think today and tomorrow. So his events are unwinding. But as I said, there's 18 different events, so obviously 36 men and women, and you need to heat, semis and finals on all of them in the space of, it only started on Saturday, so we're only like 4 days in. So give it time. I think it's still going to run, I think, towards the end of this week. So we're halfway through essentially, I think. So there's still a lot of events, a lot of people still to come, but generally speaking, it's been fun. I mean, I've definitely gravitated to. I knew I'd gravitate towards swimming anyway, but I've definitely found the swimming most interesting. The skateboarding was fun. The men's skateboarding, the cycling's been good. Some of the taekwondo, it's hard to a lot of sports you just don't understand. You just see these people and you see the points tallies go up, and you're told this person's the Olympic champion or the world champion. So you pay more respect to these people if they've got a little Olympic champion or world champion by their name, or if they're a world record holder. So that's been what's going on so far. I think next week the athletics is going to start on the weekend. I'll definitely deep dive into that a little bit more because I briefly mentioned it before about what some of these guys and girls are doing. There's going to be some world. It's going to be fun. It's going to be very fun, given how the atmosphere has been a lot better than I thought. Yeah, it's certainly in the pool. Anyway, the pool has been. It sounded like obviously not quite full because I've seen some real atmospheres in the pool. Maybe obviously because it's indoors, it's very loud. So it's been better than I thought. Definitely better than I thought. So I'm very pleased. Very pleased so far. So apart from the Olympic Games, a lot happened. Now last week, my thumbnail and title and the start of what my monologue was about Giannis and the Bucks. That was when after what happened, I could literally just copy and paste it because he dominated to that point, and this was going into Game 6. So this was the decider. He was up 3-2 at home. So he was dominant. He dominated the previous week. He dominated Game 4 and 5. So I chucked him on there. I was like, well, this guy's smashing it. Little did I know, he saved the best for last. 50. So Bucks won the title. If you haven't realised, so the guy I put on my thumbnail, for those who don't know, 50 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks. No other player has ever done that in the NBA Finals. I think I've seen a lot of these little metric thing that these think tanks come up with, greatest performances and all this kind of thing. It's listed as the greatest finals performance of all time. His performance in Game 6 to win the Bucks the title last week. I was watching it back because I recorded it and watched it in the morning, so I didn't know who won. I was watching it along, and you know when someone's really dominating a game, especially when they're getting a lot of rebounds, a lot of blocks specifically, because he's an elite defender as well as an offensive threat. So I was seeing these blocks. I was like, that's about 3 or 4 blocks already, and his free throws as well was another thing. I don't know if I've got 17 of 19. Now his whole thing, I mentioned it before, was he'll get to the basket, draw fouls, not deliberately draw fouls, but because of the size of him, and he'll go to the basket a lot. He'll get a lot of fouls, therefore he'll shoot a lot of free throws. And his free throw routine is so slow that when he's in opposing stadiums, they literally count the seconds, because you're allowed 10 seconds. Once you have the ball in your hand, so you're allowed your little pre-shot routine, but when the ref gives you the ball, you have 10 seconds to shoot it. I actually didn't know there was a time limit. I assume there was, but I didn't know there's an actual time limit. So it's a 10-second time limit, and he went over that one time. I think it was against Brooklyn in the semis, and the crowd let him have it. And every single time he shot free throws since against the Suns, certainly when he's away, obviously at his home stadium there at Boom, but in away stadiums, they're literally, as soon as he gets the ball, they're screaming, and they're not counting in time, obviously. They're just going 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you're weak-minded, that's going to get you well out of your rhythm. And he was shooting bad from 3. I think it was like 50 or 60% in some of the series, which is terrible. Good free throw shooters shoot 90%. You know, you could get away with 85 plus, but you have to score most of your free throws. You know, you can't. Free throws are just easy points. Especially if you're driving to the basket, you can get your 3-point plays all the time. So Giannis averaged 35 points in the series, shot 61%. All of these stats, they probably mean nothing to a lot of people, but they're just stupid. Like, they don't make sense. So for someone like Giannis, who has had his criticism throughout the year, certainly throughout the playoffs, starting from last year when they were heavily favoured and they lost to the Miami Heat, big redemption story for Giannis. So he's an all-time great already. He's 2-time MVP now, and he's an NBA champion. And a side note on that, he's got 2 brothers. One of his brothers is on his team, so he's an NBA champion. And his other brother, his youngest one, won the NBA title last year with LeBron. So all 3 of the brothers from Greece came over to America, and now they're all NBA title winners, which is a nice little add-on. But yeah, the bottom line, all-time great performance, and good luck next year, because his team, the way his team's set up, it's not loaded with superstars. So it shouldn't be that hard to keep together. Normally when you have superstars in your team, there's salary cap issues and players wanting to move. So in the summer, the other teams, so the Lakers are talking about trading a lot of players. I'm sure the Clippers probably as well. A lot of these teams are just going to try and add as many superstars as they can to try and win the title. But Giannis has sort of proved that you don't even need to do that. So his 2 guys, Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, they're superstars. They're all stars, so which means you one of the best in the league, but they're not superstars. They wouldn't be. I don't think it'd even be top 20 in the NBA. Whereas the Brooklyn Nets have 3 of the top 5, and the Lakers have 2 of the top 10. So they're trying. They think that, and Golden State Warriors used to have 3 of the best 5 as well. So hopefully this sort of changes teams' mentality towards just building a core group of players, like the Phoenix Suns, because they got Booker, Ayton, Chris Paul. They got a good core of players, but you don't need to have 3 absolute elite superstars. It helps, obviously, as Golden State have proved, and Miami to a degree, and other teams are trying to. The Brooklyn Nets are really trying to. But I really think that it'd be nice to see more teams just build up, just teams made up of players who are loyal to their city. They get drafted by that team, and they're trying to win a title that way, rather than just going, right, give me LeBron James, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant. It's sort of like, what we do? Like, come on, guys. But I don't know. We'll see. World Matchplay Darts. Little segue. I've not really mentioned darts too much, just because I don't watch it as much as I used to. I used to play a lot, for about, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 7 years maybe. And I used to watch it all the time, back when Phil Taylor was absolutely dominating it. And one of my favourite events, in keeping with this theme of the pure sport, was the World Matchplay, which is the 32 best players, just straight up. It's like a smaller version of the World Championship, but the format is just first to 10, and then obviously increasing in legs, and the finals first to 18. So you're literally just going leg upon leg upon leg and building up the score as you normally would. Whereas sometimes they play, in the World Championship, they do a set format. So they play first to 5 sets, first to 6 sets. And each set is first to 3. So you could do, it's hard to build momentum in set format. You're kind of just trying to steal the point. You're trying to get a point, and you have to work quite hard to get the point, which is obviously 3 legs. So it's hard to build. If you win 6 out of 7 legs, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to start snowballing. But if you go 6 out of 7, you're up 6-1 in this match play format, and it's hard to claw the legs back. But if you lose, if you're down 2-0 in sets and you've managed to get smashed in both of them, you could be down 6-0 in legs. Follow me here. First to 3, so you get your 3, you're down 1. You get another 3, you're down 2. You're only down 2-0. If you could lose 6 sets in a row and you're down 6 legs in a row, and you're only down 2-0. But in match play format, it's a lot harder to come back in. So I've always really enjoyed that. So Peter Wright, who's 51, it does tell you about the age in darts. There's a lot more youngsters than there were 10 years ago, for sure. Like, the youngsters really struggled, but now there's a lot more youngsters. So Peter Wright's 51. He won the match play last week against Vanderberg, who was the defending champion. Peter Wright won the World Championship finally in 2020. So yeah, since it's basically, I say Phelps. Imagine Phelps and LeBron James put together. There isn't really another athlete to compare to Phil Taylor. I say athlete. Argue in the comments about athlete. In terms of a competitor in a sport, Phil Taylor was. I would compare him to any, in terms of achievements, compared to any athlete, living or dead. Like, there's not many athletes that have won that many, 17 world championships, an absolute domination of the sport over 25 years. It's just incredible. Granted, again, I'm well aware, believe me, about the differences in the sport, the longevity, what it takes to put in. You're not killing your body to win these tournaments. Granted, but nonetheless, World Matchplay Darts, I've always really enjoyed. The World Championship's always great because it's obviously around Christmas time and everyone gets together and has a good time. But Matchplay Darts is always the one that Phil Taylor always wanted to win. It's sort of who is the best, because you just play 30 odd legs back to back to back, and it's first to 18 or first to 15 in most of them. So found that pretty interesting. The UFC I wasn't even going to cover until I saw the result. A, one of the greatest fights I've ever seen, probably top 10. B, top 2, if not 1, gutsiest performances I've ever seen from anyone. So TJ Dillashaw beat Corey Sandhagen. So Dillashaw was the champ, 2-time champ previously. He got banned for EPO, which was absolutely unheard of in the UFC. Like, nobody thought about taking EPO. That's obviously cycling to increase your red blood cell count, more endurance, all of that thing. It's more of a cycling thing, so you wouldn't really thought about it in MMA. But he said he took it for, it was a weight cut, because he's trying to get down a further weight, because he's a bantamweight, which is 135, and he was going to fight Cejudo, the champion, at 125. So that extra weight cut, and he already struggles to get to 135, so the extra 10 was bad, and I think he probably knew that. So he said he took it for that. All in all, I do actually, and this is me, I feel like I'm anti-doping king of understanding it, or try to understand it anyway. I definitely feel like I'm very anti-doping. I try and read a lot into it, but I do believe his sort of, not excuse, but his reason for taking it. It does seem like he took it just for once. He has always, and he proved in this fight, his cardio is insane. Like there was no decline. And normally after 5 rounds, people are struggling. But his cardio was similar to what it was before. So I do kind of believe that. Again, won't go into my thoughts on anti-doping just generally, but in terms of this particular thing, I do feel like he was telling the truth for that. It's a controversial decision. He won a split decision, so 2 of the judges had him winning 3 rounds to 2. The other one had Sandhagen winning. As I was going along, I wasn't. It's hard to score and watch at the same time, especially the first time you watch a fight. You kind of have an idea. I probably thought Sandhagen won. I probably thought Sandhagen won 3-2. But it's one of those, and I always say, with a lot of these close fights, it's sort of, listen, if there's a chance the other guy won, then I can't be mad. If you're telling me it's impossible, if you count the rounds, if you tell me it's absolutely impossible that you won 3 rounds, then fine. But if you're telling me round 3 was close, let's say it was 2 rounds each, and let's say it was round 5 was the decider. If you're telling me either of those 2 guys could have won round 5, then it's just whoever. You got judges there for a reason. Let them decide. It's like refs and penalty decisions or red cards. Like if the ref decided that, cool. That's what they're there for. They're there to judge, because obviously the players can't just let it go on by themselves. So I didn't have too much of a problem with it. But Dillashaw was extremely impressive, and I think when he gets fit, because he had a lot of injuries. And he obviously got injured. He looked like he tore. He said he tore his MCL before the fight, and he had a cut. I mean, one of the worst cuts in terms of location, right there on the eye. So his eye was full of blood from round 1, and he gritted through that. Sandhagen was slick, but he didn't go for the kill. He didn't really try. And given that TJ had no eye and no leg, you should have taken him out. And I think it does show Dillashaw is still elite. He's 35. And at bantamweight, the older you get, it's harder, much harder. Obviously, heavyweight you can do it up to 40, but 35. You're right at the end. This is his run. This is his run to the title. I think he'll get the winner of Yan and Sterling, who are going to fight in October. Rematch for the belt. So Sterling beat Yan by disqualification earlier this year. So Dillashaw versus the winner, I think, early next year, which should be an outstanding fight, especially if it's Peter Yan, because Peter Yan is, in my opinion, a lot better than Sterling. So if Yan wins the belt, Yan v Dillashaw is outstanding. That's a real all-time fight. So I'm really looking forward to that. Finally, the Formula One is back. It is back. It's been kicking. Well, I say kicking off. Red Bull have launched a official protest against the penalty Hamilton got last week. I can't think of a time that anyone's ever protested a penalty and it's been extended. This one, I mean, I was surprised they even gave him a penalty, number 1. I was surprised it was 10 seconds, not 5, number 2. This one would top it. If they give him 5 more, or if they give him 5 more, he'll lose a position. He can, well, I'll say it afford. If it's a 5-second or a 10-second additional penalty, Hamilton will just lose the win. He'll come second, which is 7 points, which is, a big deal, because I think it's only 4 points, the gap between him and Verstappen now. So Red Bull won't gain anything; it'll just Hamilton be losing a few points. If they give him more of a penalty now, I can't see it. Given everybody, and I mean everybody, has analysed it, all the talking heads, all the ex-drivers, all of this, all of that, and nobody said. I mean, most of them err on the side of where I'm at. It's like it's Hamilton's fault. Give him a penalty or don't. It's kind of up to you. I probably wouldn't have. A lot of people wouldn't have. Some people would have. But a 10-second penalty is probably, given that Verstappen's in the wall, all right, cool. We'll take that. To add one on, there'd be no precedent for it. I just don't think, unless there's new data. I just don't think there would be. Unless there's new data, I can't imagine them giving it to anybody. But they're protesting anyway. Red Bull are, I mean, it's a bit school ground, schoolboy stuff. But they've got to do it because they're in a title battle. They're in an all-time title battle, so they need to get every point they can get. And this isn't the first time. If you've ever seen Netflix, Drive to Survive, they do complain a lot. Really, they do. They're known to complain a lot. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. This is another track, another Hamilton track. There's obviously a few of them because he's won quite a lot of races. He's won 8 races here, which obviously is the most all time. There's only him and Schumacher and Senna who've ever won a track 8 times, and Hamilton's now got 2 of them. So Britain last week, and this place. Last year, Mercedes qualified by a second quicker. The year before was the race I kind of referenced briefly before, where Verstappen was winning the race, and they pitted Hamilton for fresh tyres, and he chased him down and won the race. Kind of what you've seen a lot this year. So someone pits and chases the other guy down. So that was like the original one where Mercedes made a masterstroke and pitted Hamilton early. Verstappen's been good, even from 2016, 2015, way back in the day when Verstappen was brand new. Verstappen got 4th, I think, in 2015 when it was like his first year in there. And he's come second. He came second last year. He came second in the year before that. So Verstappen's good there. He does like this track. And obviously Red Bull are very, very good. But Mercedes are back on... they're back in terms of like momentum. And we'll see. This race, I mean, that if it's Hamilton, Verstappen, one on the front row, get your popcorn ready. Because it's that first turn. Because that first turn is a sharp right. And then it's the second main turn is sort of a slow-ish left, and then there's a long run up to a sharp. I mean there's a corner at the top of the hill. I think it's turn 5. 1, 2, 3. Top turn 4, where it's the fastest part of the circuit apart from the pit straight, obviously. And it's a sharp. It's like a sharp left, but it's a quick left. Every time I played it on Formula 1, it was one of those where you can't lift off the gas too much. You have to sort of just flick the car and just ride the curbs. And there's a lot of twisty sections, so the Red Bull should be good in those twisty sections, but it's very hard to overtake. There's only probably 3 places on the track you can overtake. So whoever gets on pole and leads out of the first lap should be good for it, unless there's an obvious tactical hole where a team can pull someone in and get fresh tyres and win the race. So we will see, but either way, get your popcorn ready because it's not over yet. Luckily for the feud, like I said last week on my Formula 1 video, go watch it if you haven't. There's 3 weeks off. It's a summer break now, so we had a week off since Silverstone, so let everyone cool down a bit, and now we've got 3 weeks until Belgium, and then the season will ramp up then. So 3 weeks summer break. This race is going to be one that you're really gonna want to win this one. This is one. It's like scoring before half time. You really want to just grab this one if you can, especially if you're Hamilton. If Hamilton wins this race, Mercedes and Hamilton will lead the championship again, going into the second half of the season. And there's a lot of tracks that Mercedes are good at in the second half, and you've got 3 weeks to develop a car. So if Mercedes case, who are behind Red Bull at the minute in terms of development, that's what you're going to do. So a lot going on. Olympic Games is firing. The golf is starting tomorrow. A lot going on. We'll be back in 1 week. Thank you for watching.